Hello and welcome to Breaking the Game, podcast presented by Premier Spike. Thanks for joining, everyone. This is something that I know is very different to the current content that I post on YouTube. Mostly just been highlight videos and condensed games, but wanted to break into a different type of media, into the podcasting world. I previously did podcasting a bit with Justin Shatar as the Profit Pod, but wanted to start a podcast by myself and talk through all the hot topics in RoundNet. So much to go through, as I think 2025 is going to be a year full with uncertainty. Um, so I'm here to provide the hot takes. I'm here to tell stories of my time going from a premier player all the way up until pro. Um, Here to talk through tournament previews and predictions, potentially even some film review. So I have a lot of different content ideas for the podcast, and I'm really excited to kick this all off. So thanks for listening, and hope you enjoy. Um, Starting with this episode. So today we're going to talk through ASL. Probably the biggest, if not second biggest, tournament of 2025, other than the STS Championship. So, lots of things to discuss around ASL. Um, I'm very excited myself. I'm going with the Philly squad. So, playing alongside Gabe Finaki, um, Thomas Hoffman, Dan Abrams, Jake Modderstead, Mike Garrett, and Matt Splaric. So very, very excited to be playing with those guys, and hopefully, we'll have a far run and play deep into the tournament. So more to come on that. I did want to take a sec to just preview the rest of the ASL tournament. So looking at 2024, that was my first time going to ASL because I believe the previous year it was held in a much smaller venue and a lot less people participated in that tournament than this one, and it's just gone up and up and up. So we've seen a lot of growth with ASL. I believe in 2024 we had 27 premier teams, and this year there's 36. Same with Contender. It was, I think, 44 teams in 2024, and now it's up to 50, 52, maybe something like that. So lots more Contender teams, and also women's. It was at 13 teams last year, and now we're at 15. So the sport's growing. We'll continue to see the growth, but lots to discuss about each of those divisions. I probably won't touch on Contender just because I know a little bit less about the Contender field than I do Premier and Women's. So I'll probably stick to those two topics, or I guess previews and prediction wise, just touching on Premier and Women's. But other things compared to 2024 from last year. Last year was 25,000 in prize money. And this year it's, I think, around 40,000 in prize money. Unsure how that's split up across divisions, but we've seen, growth in prize money as well. And also, I think Contender teams, last year was only 2 teams qualifying for Premier. This year it's 3, so you'll have the extra incentive to play out to make Premier if you're playing in Contender. And then I think requalifying in Premier wasn't possible last year, and this year it is. So you can qualify, or you can requalify for Premier this year if you finish top 12 in the Premier division. So that's a third of the Premier players playing in a few weekends. And a couple other things to note about this tournament specifically. So we're back in Orlando, same as last year, but last year was on grass fields, which I think mostly everyone who was at the tournament can agree that it was not the best playing conditions. There was lots of sand everywhere. And this year we'll be playing on turf, and I believe every division is playing on turf. So that's very exciting. For me specifically, I definitely prefer turf as a playing surface. I know there's lots of people that disagree with that and love grass, and I love grass as well. Like I think if you have really good grass, it can be better than turf, but more often than not, it's hard to find the thin grass that is better. So I'm just I'm more of a turf guy at this point, playing for years now, and I just think I prefer like the consistent surface. So great to see that this tournament's going to be on that. Um, Other things in play. So recently we've heard some rule changes in 2025, announced by USAR, and I believe Thomas Hamilton had been leading the charge there. Um, and so for this tournament, we will have the 3 second rule in play, meaning last year you were allowed to take up to 5 seconds to serve, meant lots of fakes. This year in ASL, it's going to be 3 seconds. Um, I don't believe the rule where you can't chase a or you can chase a ball, but you have 30 seconds to serve. I don't believe that will be in effect at this tournament. Leave it up to Alex and Caleb and those who are running the tournament to, I guess, announce that day of. But um, I know for a fact that we'll be playing with the 3 second rule, which I'm excited about. I think it's a good improvement in just watchability wise. I don't think it takes too much away from the previous form of the sport. You still have plenty of time to make a few fakes, and it's not hard to watch by any means. I played with 3 seconds once, which was at Christmas Classic, and I like 3 seconds. I played against Will Pacone, who's probably the best faker, in my opinion, in terms of all the top servers in the sport. And he was still able to, generate some pretty good fakes in the 3 second time that he was allotted, even though, the ball didn't really allow for a lot of great serves off the net. The fakes were still pretty solid. So, you're taking away 2 seconds, of course, but I think it's still enough time to make a quick pivot and get someone off balance. So I'm excited to see how that rule just takes into effect at this tournament and going into the rest of the STS events this season. Um, Something else to note is we'll be playing to 21 in pool play. Last year it was 15. Um, that's huge in my opinion. I'd much rather play to 21. I think mostly everyone would agree with me. There's some people who would prefer 15, but just 21 to the good direction. I'm happy that Alex and Caleb went that route. And usually when tournaments go to 21 in pool play and bracket, specifically pool play, they'll cap it at 25. But for ASL at this tournament, it's going to be capped at 22. So interesting rule change there. I think just to keep the pace of the tournament going and not have people playing into deep extras early rounds when there's so many people participating in the tournament. Um, Also, big change from last year. This year, last year there were 2 point nets for pool play and bracket. So just to recap of how the format works, you play every team in pool play in 2 rounds, and the first round, the 3 nets that are alive are each worth 1 point. The second round, it would be two nets worth 1 point and one net worth 2 points, which is essentially trying to settle a tiebreak so it doesn't end up as a 3-3 score after 2 rounds, and you can have a definitive winner of the pool or bracket. But the difference is that this year we're not going to be playing with a 2 point net in bracket. So 2 point net will still be existing in the pool play round, but in terms of bracket, we're going to be playing with a different thing called overtime. So how does overtime work, and how do you get to overtime? So essentially, in bracket, you'll be playing 4 rounds, not two. If it goes 6-6, which is both teams won the same amount of games after 4 rounds, that is when you'll be headed to overtime. And with overtime, what you'll do is each team will choose two of their top 3 players to compete against the other squad's two of their top three players. This is an important distinction here because it's really important that, if one of your top three players gets injured, you have the right player lined up in the third slot. This means that you can't choose from two of your top four players. That third player is pretty key. I mean, a lot of squads might end up choosing their top two players to play together, but there might be a scenario where, say the second best player isn't playing as good as the third best player that game or that day, and the one and the three want to play together. It's important how you construct your squad to make sure that your top three are your top three, so you can give yourself, the extra flexibility if you do reach an overtime period. But going back to how the overtime period works, once you've chosen your two players and the other squad has chosen their two players, you essentially pick who is going to serve first. You're playing a game to 8 points, and it's not a game to 8 points, but rather 8 points total are being played. Each player on each team will have 2 serve attempts to each player on the opposing team, if that makes sense. So essentially, if I'm playing with Gabe in an overtime, and we're playing against Ryan Marino and Thomas Hamilton, say I serve first, I would serve to Thomas, regardless of if I win the point or not. Now I'm serving to Ryan. After that, they pick a player that they want to serve. Say it's Ryan. Ryan serves to me. Then he serves to Gabe. Whichever order they decide, that'll be the order that it is. So essentially, you're going to be playing the 8 points. The only way you don't play the 8 points is if someone wins 5 points before the other team. So say I serve first, I serve at Ryan, we win the point. Serve at Thomas, we win the point. And then say Ryan serves at me and we hold, and Ryan serves at Gabe and we hold. And now it's Gabe's turn to serve, and he serves at Thomas and he gets an ace. Somehow we won 5 straight points and we win the overtime period. So you'd play up to 2 serves for each player. And if it's tied at 4-4, then you go into an additional sudden death, which is a little complicated, and I might let Alex explain the details there. It's very similar to the overtime period in that you have each player take a turn serving, but it is a little bit more complicated. So I'll let him handle that at the tournament once we're all there. But very excited for just seeing how this plays out. I like the 2-point net, but I think this also is a cool way that you can draw attention to a specific matchup, and also play with someone that you might not be able to play with the rest of the day, as a lot of 1s and 2s usually don't play together at the ASL events, or at least the squad events. You're usually matching your 1 up with your 5, 6, 7, sometimes your 4, and your 2 will occasionally play with the 3, but really never plays with the 1. Some will play with everyone else. It's interesting. I mean, of course, there's scenarios where the 1 and 2 play together, but pretty infrequent. So it's cool that this overtime period will allow for that to happen. Going into tournament predictions, lots of fun stuff to discuss here. Really don't know where to start, but I guess we can start with Premier. So I did a quick scan of all the squads that have decided to come to the tournament, and lots of interesting squads. Lots of squads that I think are going to be under the radar on a lot of people's radars, and one squad that I think is kind of the not definitive favorite, but I'd say has the best chance to win, is Quebec. You got 4 players who made the Pro Division this past year in Etienne, Cote, Max Prince, Vinny, Matthew, and Jay Gagnon. Gagnon, however you pronounce his last name. Sorry if I butchered that, Jay. But 4 pro players on their team definitely the best 1 through 4 out of any squad. So that gives them a huge advantage going against even the reigning champs, Michigan. So that's a very interesting matchup if Michigan and Quebec end up playing in the finals. I mean, um, I think both teams have a really good chance to win, but if I were to take one team to win who has the best chance going into the tournament, it's the squad with 4 pro players. Um, so Quebec, I think you guys have a really good chance. I do think that Canada specifically has been looking for one of these big wins. You had Canada last year in the finals of ASL. They lost. Even going back to Worlds 2022, you had Canada lose in the finals. Then you get to Worlds 2024, Canada loses in the finals. I think they're going to be really motivated. I think it's going to be tough to beat them. I hope that my squad, Pennsylvania, gets a chance to play against them because I want to knock them off, and I think we can. So yeah, you heard it here first, Pennsylvania. Look out for us. But yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting to see, I guess, how this plays out. Quebec, like I said, is probably the favorite. Michigan also really interesting. Some changes to their lineup from last year. Jensen is no longer on the squad, as well as Grant Clapwick is also no longer on the squad. And they've added in a few other pieces. They've added in Cliff and Henry Pilliard. So the squad's a little bit different, but they still have Emerson. They still have Thomas and Justin Barr and Ryan Marino and Jack. So 5 of their 7 remain the same. Obviously, they're the defending champs. It's going to be tough to knock them off as well. But there's a couple other squads I want to touch on too that I think have a really good chance to podium, if not win. California have a really deep squad. Buddy Hammond is back, so that's pretty awesome. It's been a while since I played against Buddy, so really hope we get to play Buddy if you're listening. They also have Josh Frag, who was in the finals of the STS Championship with Connor. You got Buddy, you got Josh, you got Caleb Cummings, outstanding server and pro player himself. You got Trevor Rabosa, been around forever, really great at the whole game. Great support player to a player like Josh, a player like Caleb. That's going to be a tough team to go up against. And then also Kian, who is on the up and coming. Played him recently at the Cali State Finals and was pretty impressed with his game and how it's improved over the years. They have a really good squad. I'm not sure how they'll rank the squad. Also Jacob Pear and Sean Sequenza as well, who are veterans in the sport and have a lot of experience. They're going to be a tough out for anyone that plays them, and I know Buddy will have them motivated. So that's a fun squad to watch. Another fun squad to watch is Florida. They got Jared Bufate, Dawson Morgan, Jack Kuba, Ben Goldfarb, Chase Meyer, Ben Savage, and Adam Porter. All names who have been around the scene for a really long time at this point. Not sure who's been around the longest, maybe Dawson, but I feel like everyone's been around a really long time in their group, and they all play together a ton. So I feel like this group specifically, more than anyone, has a huge advantage in terms of reps and experience playing together. I think Florida is going to be, a really fun squad to watch, and wouldn't be surprised if they make an upset. And then last team I wanted to mention in terms of just some dark horses is Texas. They have Garrett Hornock, Tyler Fernandez, and Raul Murthy and Fred, Luke Mowry, Micah Allen, and Andrew Christmas. Some fun names there, specifically Garrett, who, he's in and out of the sport, used to be pro. It's fun to see him out there. I played him in the Texas Challenger earlier last year with Dan. He's great setter, great defender, really hard server to get a read on. He hits middle net with jam, reverse, and cut. So it's a tough serve to read. They got Tyler, who's just an athletic freak. Raul and Fred, of course, they if they bring their A game, they can beat anybody. Not sure how much they've been playing, so that'll be interesting one to see. And if they do go the route of putting Fred and Raul as the 1-2, which I'm not sure if they're gonna, but if they do go that route, I imagine they wouldn't play together too much. So maybe they don't put Raul and Fred as the 1-2 just to be able to mash them up together more often, which might even be fair because I think they have some players on the team that have played a lot more frequently than those two recently. Luke Mowry, who is someone who previously pro, seems to get a good result at every tournament he plays. It's definitely he hasn't been too traveled, I guess, as a player is the way I'd put it. Like he hasn't played too many tournaments, but seems like whenever he does play, he's a tough out. So yeah, be fun to play Luke and Micah Allen, who is a newer player on the scene, at least in my opinion, and I haven't seen him for too long, but I've been really impressed when I did play, or I was very impressed when I played him at I think it was the South region. Yeah, it was the South Regional last year for USAR. Me and Tyler actually played against Micah and Owen, who Owen is not on their squad, but Micah is very athletic. The whole squad's very athletic, and Andrew Christmas as well, who's been around for a while. So um, lots of fun teams to keep an eye on. I think, like I said, Quebec would be my favorite to win. Um, Michigan, a close kind of second, just out of respect for that they won last year and have a really good squad this year as well. But keep an eye on Pennsylvania. Uh, got myself and Gabe, so anytime that we're playing a game, if the two of us can handle our nets, I think we'll have a great chance to beat anyone. And really excited to get the chance to play with the rest of my squad. I haven't played with Jake, Mike, Matt, or Thomas or Gabe in a tournament fashion. I've only played with Dan in a tournament, and I played with the rest of those guys like a little bit in pickup. So it's going to be a blast. And I guess we can move on to the women's predictions now. This is a two-team race, I'll be honest. I was looking at all the squads that had signed up, and really there's only two squads that can win. Um, Probably, one significant favorite, which is California. California actually didn't win the women's division in ASL last year. Spacing on who won, but California didn't, and they're bringing a really good squad this time around. They have Kara Hui, Perrin York, Sarah Allen, Elle Lowe, Seb Kim, and Joelle and Shayna. Shayna with probably like the least experience out of everyone on the squad, but they're so deep. I mean, they'll be able to match up with anyone. Lots of just strong servers combined with holders on their team. I think it's going to be tough for really anyone in the women's division to beat that team. Considering they all play together a lot, they have a lot of experience as well, and just the talent on the rest of the teams. The other team to watch out, I think, that could give California a good run for their money is Canada East, which has Kathleen Fan, Malia Wanderer, Abby Lamontang, Hannah Kispe, Abby Norris, Tess Dolan, and Holly Yu. I think this team is full of just athletic, great defensive minded and serve pressure players. Lots of sort of like California, they have a good mix of holders and also some serve pressure too. So it's gonna be tough to not see California and Canada East matching up against each other. I mean, really anything could happen, and that's what's great about RoundNet. Uh, but yeah, I think just having Kathleen Fan with her experience now after a year in the pro division under her belt, seeing Malia and Abby play the whole season last year, have great success together. That's a really terrific top three. You got Hana, who qualified for Premier last year, playing with her brother and um, in a challenger, and then Holly, who's extremely athletic, quick twitch. I play with her all the time, and excited to see how she does at this tournament. Um, and then Tess Dolan, who I'm not super familiar with her game. I think I've seen her play once. She seems really athletic. Abby Norris as well. Like I haven't seen her play too much, but have heard good things. So overall, I mean, it should be a really fun division in women's. Even though it's very top heavy, I hope that these are the two teams that play against each other in the finals, and we see a good matchup there, and they're not playing in the semis like what seems to happen with every 1-2 at tournaments. Um, Going on a different topic, and before we head out, just want to talk a little bit more about the podcast, what I have, in mind in the future. This is something that, like I said, I've wanted to do for a really long time. I know it's content that is very different than what you're probably used to seeing from me. So always feel free to give me feedback, give me criticism, whatever it is. I'm always trying to improve in these things, and I have a lot in terms of some plans up. Plans are coming out that are going to be pretty sick. Like I said, some film review. I want to recap just how last season went with Pack at some point, going into this year. Um, who is my partner? That will be announced at some point. I'm gonna look to do potentially an episode around rule changes for 2025 once they announce the rules and the equipment. So I know we've seen 3 seconds and how that's been a change, but what is the equipment going to look like? There's a lot of question marks there, and I have some pretty strong opinions about where I think we should go with equipment, as well as how the tournament series is going to look. Um, so that'll be something I want to do an episode on. Also want to do an episode on the bigger ball, which I know is kind of tied to the rule changes and equipment changes. But with bigger ball, I think I could spend a lot of time talking about all the players that I think are going to dominate in bigger ball. So want to do a preview sort of what the pro division might look like with bigger ball. And then also want to do an episode where I just give a little bit of context to how I've grown in this sport, how I think, others can maybe take some things that I've learned from traveling now for 2 years straight, taking the sport pretty seriously, lessons I've learned, want to do, an episode kind of looking into how you can perform at your best, what it takes to perform at your best, everything you can do to be able to perform at your best. So that'll be a fun one. And like I said, a look ahead about what I'm going to be doing this year, who I'm going to be playing with, all that will probably be announced here. So fun times ahead. Really appreciate you tuning in, and yeah, subscribe for more content. This should be pretty fun. So yeah, I'll see you guys at ASL and after, probably to recap it.